Hey everybody, Steph here. In this video I'm going to tell you a little story about how through pure laziness cost me literally $12 million. And I'm not kidding. So this takes us back way back, about 8 years ago, something like that, 7-8 years ago. I may be off by a year or so. And I was involved with market trading, as in the stock market, commodities market, and so forth. I was doing that quite a bit with a good friend of mine, Double Bulls Dean. Double Bulls Dean. If you know anything about investing, you know what I mean by double bulls. He was a guy involved in highly speculative investments, if you will. Speculative is a Wall Street term that means gamble. And let me just say, for the record, a lot of the stock market is just pure gambling. It doesn't really have much to do with investment. Just say. That said, so around that time, something called Bitcoin came to our attention. Bitcoin. So my buddy Double Bulls and I, we decided that we were going to put a small little taste into Bitcoin just as a speculation, a long-term gamble. Well, we'll try it out, see what happens. You never know with these things. So we were just going to put about 500 each into it. Very tiny thing, maybe a little bit more, but we were thinking about 500. So we started doing it, getting into it. And at the time, though, to buy and sell Bitcoin was a real pain. It was a big pain. It wasn't easy like buying stocks and commodities, that's for sure. So, long story short, at the time, Bitcoins were about 5 cents a piece, something like that. And we were going to put in about $1,000 or more into Bitcoin and then just forget about it. So just to put in perspective, we didn't do it because it was such a pain to do it that we just forget it. It's too much trouble. And it was literally pure laziness. Pure laziness. Now, just to put in perspective, Bitcoins today are around $1,400, $1,500. So if you do the math, you see where that cost me about $12 million to not buy the Bitcoin. But here's the thing, though. A little investment tip here. Now, what are the chances I would have held the Bitcoin from 5 cents a piece to about $1,400, $1,500 a piece till today? The chances of that happening, realistically, are very low. Very low. To have that kind of discipline, very difficult. So how do you maximize the potential of you fulfilling the long-term goal of your investments? That was a long way of saying, how do you stay in investments that are pushing you to sell emotionally, whether because they've gone up a lot or whether because they're tanking a lot, they're going down? The key is high diversification, lots of diversification. You want to not stay in a particular position. You don't want to have too much money, rather concentrated in a particular investment. And that was the single biggest mistake I think I made during the 2008-2009 financial crisis. I had seen that coming and I was getting ready to do it, but I would put way too much of my investing money into a particular stock or a particular trade. And as a result of that, when it would move up or down a few percentages rather, it would get me very excited or very nervous. So I would sell too early a lot of the times. Well, all the time. And if I would have just put a small tranche, a small slice of my investment money into each position over time, it would have been far more profitable for me in the end, because I wouldn't have been scared out of or greeted out of my positions, if you will. I would have held them much longer to let my thesis, to let my original idea play out. And about 80% of the time, 90% of the time, they did play out. But I didn't take full advantage of it. So I'll give you an example, Apple stock. I knew Apple, when it was about $50 a share, that it would grow to this huge company. And I knew that because everybody was switching over, buying Macs for the first time back in the day when when Apple switched from the PowerPC to the x86 Intel PCs. I knew all of a sudden that was it. This thing was going to go. Now, and I bought Apple stock, and I did really well with it. But because I was too concentrated in it, I made like 60-70% of my money in 6-7 months or something like that. But if I had been much more diversified and held Apple to today, it split, I think, a couple of times. So, the $50 purchase, at that time, today it's worth the equivalent of maybe $700, $800. So instead of doing 60% of my money, I would have 10 times my money, or more actually. So you get the idea. So that's enough with investing tips. It's all related back to business, by the way. You think about the laziness, about the diversification. It relates back to other business lessons. I hope you don't mind I'm going off code here, because a lot of people want to become freelance developers. So understanding basic business thinking is very useful.